Well, we're going to Valakut Exploration then, and pass. The Star of Extinction off the top is truly fantastic here. We really needed something powerful to do. So next turn, the fact that we can Irencrag into Star of Extinction is... No! Greetings, everyone. I am glad to be here, and I am glad that you are here. Today's jank, we are going to be back in Historic. For those of you who have been avid followers of the channel for quite some time, you'll actually recognize this deck. It is almost exactly the same deck that I had. It's been a while, though. It's been a while. We made just a couple of tweaks. Because of new cards being added and things, kept the name. I actually still had the deck. I love this deck so much that even after deleting content over and over and over, somehow this one survived. But yeah, folks, I don't think this is going to take a lot of Sherlock Holmesing to figure out what's going on here. We are a Brash Taunter, Truefire Captain, Stormwild Capridor deck. What does that mean? Well, Brash Taunter is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. When Truefire Captain is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player. And when Stormwild Capridor is dealt non-combat damage, prevent that damage, put that many 1/1 counters on Stormwild Capridor, for each damage prevented this way. So, yep, we're a Star of Extinction deck, ladies and gents. Destroy target land, Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Yeah. So if we have one or two of these happy folks down, then we're going to be 20ing our opponent in a hurry. Or alternatively, if this is in the air and we drop 21 counters on it, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty darn close, What kind of cards fill in around it? Well, you'll note a very huge gap right here. And it may be perplexing to some because I have a red deck and actual 0 copies of Bone Crusher Giant, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that is odd, but it's odd for it is on purpose. This is for a very specific reason. Put a 1/1 counter on Stormwild Capridor for each 1 damage prevented this way. And for those of you who have been keeping track with cards in Standard, the often forgotten text on Bone Crusher Giant is pay 2 mana, stomp deals 2 damage to any target, but damage can't be prevented this turn. So, in the interest of full disclosure, when I first built this deck and took it out for a spin, however long ago that was, kind of a while, yeah, it would have been maybe in June or July or somewhere in there, I absolutely Bone Crusher Gianted a Stormwild Capridor and then went, what have I done? It turns out the one time that did happen, I didn't get punished for it. Our opponent did not have follow-up damage, but not a mistake I wish to repeat, right? And therefore, all of these damage spells are going to be primarily focused on removing creatures. So our best matchups are often going to be creature-based. Notably, Storm's Wrath, as a 4/of, does deal damage to planeswalkers, as does Star of Extinction. The Valakut Exploration is landfall, give us card advantage, and it is only a 1/of. So for the most part, we're just playing off the top of our deck and hoping we can make that work. The rest of this is all just, damage-based removal stuff. The only other exception, and the only other win condition in the list, is Chandra Awakened Inferno. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this card. In the previous Standard Environment pre-rotation, she was at least relatively common, at least out of the sideboard, and often main deck play, especially if you paid attention to my channel, because I love this card. But she does also serve as mass damage removal. Deal 3 damage to each non-elemental creature, or targeted exiling removal, where we can remove X counters and deal X damage to something, and if it would die, it exiles. The only other notable thing here is Irencrag Peak. Add 7, you can only cast 1 more spell. So that is specifically to get our Star of Extinction and Chandras happening much sooner than might normally happen. It is also relevant that it says you can only cast one more spell this turn, but it doesn't say the mana has to be used on any specific endeavor. Therefore, we can add 7, and let's say Storm's Wrath or Valakut Exploration or any of these cards, you know, do that. That's our last spell, but we can also sink the mana into Brash Taunter fighting something if we have a Brash Taunter on board. Or let's say we tap 4, cast a Brash Taunter, we have 2 left floating. If we have an extra mana somewhere, we can then use that mana to activate a different Brash Taunter or something like that. And of course, having multiples in play is is important if our opponent is ever able to get above 20 life, because we don't have very many ways of going upstairs with removal. It is relevant that we have no lightning strikes or anything in this list. It's possible that is a thing we want to adjust, but right now we're all in on the combo. So, the only thing I would mention here, Sweltering Suns, Volcanic Fallout. It's possible we want some more of those. This one can't be countered, which is very important for getting counters on Stormwild Capridor and maybe getting in the last bit of damage with Brash Taunter. But Sweltering Suns can be cycled in matchups where it doesn't matter, or if we're stuck on lands or something like that, right? So I'm not sure which is better. So we just did a 1-1 split, and we will perform some game testing for science. However, all that being said, let's get some games, shall we? All right, folks, here we are up against Smire, and I think we can keep this. A little iffy. We don't really have any ways of interacting, but hopefully we can scry. Oh boy, we don't want to keep drawing lands, though. I guess we'll keep this because we'll be able to Irencrag feet into one, and then when they remove it, we'll have a follow-up. And considering we technically have 6 lands in hand right now, or 6 lands that we have access to right now, it seems highly likely that we get there. It's also quite possible that, yeah, our opponent can have some amount of hand disruption or things like that. That could strip one of these out. All right, so our opponent goes to Brineborn Cutthroat. Grixis Flash. Not a very common archetype, but interesting nonetheless. Yeah, let's just go ahead and pass, I guess. Opponent lets it go. See what our opponent gets up to here. Next turn, we can fire off a Chandra. It is very odd, normally, for folks to counter the Irencrag feat. Normally, you want to get the 2-for-1. So you let him resolve the Irencrag feat, and then you counter the thing that they follow up with. In this case, though, Chandra Awakened Inferno, this spell can't be countered text is very, very relevant against what our opponent's up to. Now, presumably, they have some amount of instant speed removal. That's the only reason I can imagine they would add black. But if our opponent is playing extra cautious, they could counter the Irencrag feat here. They do. Okay. Well, that is acceptable as far as I'm concerned. Nicol Bolas. Ravager. All right. You can die, Smire. Or Nicol Bolas. Smire's Bolas. Oh, that's unfortunate. But we are going to go ahead and discard that card. Darn it, we could have discarded the land. We needed to be able to hit it this turn is the issue, right? So we are going to exile this Bolas. Our opponent may have a removal for the Chandra, and that would be unfortunate because we already had to discard one. Yeah. Unfortunate. So our opponent has 4 cards and a half still hanging out. We do not. Oh, thank heavens. Okay. That was great. Resolving the Valakut Exploration is fantastic, because we're obviously flooded out pretty hard, but continuing to flood out would be even worse, right? This does actually put a clock on on our opponent. We don't have fetch lands and stuff to really take advantage of it. This is just kind of a one turn at a time thing. Oh, darn it. I was hoping... Oh, no. You can only cycle from your hand. So we should have recast this. All right. Valakut Exploration and Stormwild Capridor both coming on down. Opponent considering what to do. All right, we take our beats. You got it. Really curious about what those 4 cards in hand are. Our opponent has really been able to outvalue us here with all of these Nicol Bolas's. They got us empty-handed pretty quick. And, of course, they've missed a land drop or 2, and we haven't. But at this stage in the game, boy, we could do with missing a land drop or 2. What we would really like is a Star of Extinction off the top here. That would be the thing we're looking for. All right, opponent goes with Sanctum of Calm Waters. That was not the card I expected to see. Truefire Captain, not terrible. Though, admittedly, we do kind of expect our opponent to have non-damage-based removal for it. Oh, just Brazen Borrower? Okay, that's not terrible at all. Oh, well, all right. So, good game, opponent. So, good game? That was the card we wanted off the top, folks. That was the card we wanted. And GG, Smire, GG. All right, folks. Yeah, JC 3235. We're going to keep this. Unfortunately, Clifftop Retreat being a tap land is annoying. But it's something we're going to have to deal with for now. Get that Clifftop Retreat in. Our opponent has Terramander and Siren Stormtamer. Oh, crud, folks. Well, now we need to draw lands, because I think we need to use removal spells on both of these fellas. We cannot allow our opponent to go crazy with Curious Obsessions and Curiosities and things, or we die. Right? Oh my gosh. Please, deck. Don't do this to me. Please. Sea Dasher, Octopus. Alright. And a Terramander. Good lord. Folks, our opponent has, unfortunately, had all of the answers to all of our questions here. Oh, shoot. That was a mistake. Darn it, folks. Shoot. I had intended to kill it in response, but instead we ended the turn. It's probably going to lose the game, too. Tilt levels at maximum. Oh, baby. Please, another land. Please, another land. No. No, deck. Please, land. Don't do this thing where I have to wait until it's too late. Please. Deck! Come on. It was probably already too late. But you could have thrown us a bone here. Please. It's got to be this turn, deck. You got to give us a land this turn, please. Alright, opponent has their Curious Obsession. Yeah, okay. Us not killing the Sea Dasher Octopus, I think, by accidentally clicking one too many times there, I think the game is lost. Now, our opponent can punt here. We're going to Irencrag feat. They need to counter the Irencrag feat, not the Chandra, right? Because they can't counter the Chandra. If they don't counter this, then that's kind of on our opponent here. Holy crud. Okay. Opponent? Trying to decide what to do about it. Timeout used. They gave us an in, folks. They gave us an in. We have a shot. Admittedly, our opponent's also gone through quite a few creatures here. So, it is, you know, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibilities for them to not have a lot of replacement creatures here for the creatures already in play. They kind of went ballistic, just casting all their creatures. There's, you know, 3 already in the bin. There's 2 on the battlefield. That's 5 creatures. This kind of deck typically will only run something like 15 creatures or something, right? All right. So we're going to sweep the board. It's not great if our opponent has... Oh, boy, they didn't have a Brazen Borrower. Because Brazen Borrower, they could have hard cast instead of bounce the Chandra. They just hard cast the Brazen Borrower and then attack Chandra. And that would have been, you know, enough to kill Chandra, Awaken Inferno. We didn't really have a great follow-up, right? But now our opponent is in a bit of a spot. And JC3235, very, very carefully thinking about all of the different potential lines here. There are just a whole bunch of potential lines that are probably available to them. They do have 8 cards in hand, right? So it's possible they're just tilting, right? That's not outside the realm of possibilities. Because I'm sure they had a counterspell. Like, there's no question. They have 7 or 8 cards in hand. They had 7. Yeah, okay. Makes sense. The opponent probably had all of their creatures on board and were intending to just protect those creatures with 150 counterspells. And then we cast something that couldn't be countered, right? They had the chance and didn't do it. If you have that kind of wealth, I think it's probably just greedy to not counterspell. Now, if they were only sitting on 1 counterspell, I understand. You've got to be very, very careful about what you pick. Considering our opponent already had 6 or 7 cards at the time, they probably just should have countered the Irencrag feat. We were tapped out then, right? They know it's one thing if you're like, is this card bait, right? I cast a 1-drop. Do you counter it? Sometimes it's not bait. Sometimes I want you to think it's bait, right? And then all I wanted was getting a 1-drop result, right? So counter it, knowing when to do that. That's what makes a control great, like Wafo Tapa, you know, Wafo Tapa. But by that same token, there was no follow-up here. I tapped out. I am now tapped out for the duration of this turn and all the way through until I untap next turn. I think they needed to counter it, but they got greedy and paid the price. But good game, nonetheless. Good game. All right, folks. We are up against Salty Bjorn. Good luck, Salty Bjorn. We're going to hang on to this. Probably just going to lead on a mountain here, as opposed to a Spikefield Hazard. We might need these for interaction. Though we're not afraid of using them for lands if we need to. That is definitely why they're in the deck. All right. Since we did not draw a land now, we're going to go ahead and get down that Spikefield Hazard. It stinks because we're pretty sure this might be mono blue. It's an opt. Okay. And if it is mono blue tempo, then all the removal we can have is amazing. Okay, it's not mono blue. Oh boy, it's Goblin Electromancer. Well, we're going to kill that thing at our earliest convenience. No question about it. That thing must die on sight. Yep. Or it has an island. And just decides to pass. All right. Second main for our opponent. Boy, oh boy, is that annoying. All right, well, we're going to keep using these as lands. Folks, we kept a 4-lander. Have not drawn any additional lands. That is not great. Not great at all. But even now, a payoff for Irencrag feat would be nice as well. The land destruction would be fine. What is that called? Star of Extinction. But we would prefer to get a Chandra down. That would be the ideal thing. All right, Salty Bjorn. Staring down 2 reds, 2 blues. So a total of 4 mana. And they're considering most likely how to go about the turn, considering they don't have any Arclight Phoenixes in the graveyard. I assume this is an Arclight Phoenix deck. It is always difficult trying to decide if you're going to go for it or not. Darn it, come on, folks, for real? We kept a 4-lander. You're supposed to flood on 4-landers. Not only did we not flood, we haven't gotten a single land. Oh boy, that's unfortunate. And I just don't think it's worth it to run out Irencrag feat for a Brash Taunter. The Brash Taunter unlikely to even be able to block in this matchup. I think we're just better off holding up Abrade. Salty Bjorn plays an island for the turn. They're on 3 blue, 2 red, and are considering all their options. Chart, of course, is what they fire off. Draws 2. They discard. We're not sure yet. I haven't seen it. Carefully contemplating the discard. They discard. Let's see. I didn't recognize the card when it was going down. Thundering Rebuke. They cast a Stormwing entity, please forgive me, and enter. When it enters, they scry 2. They go 1 top, 1 bottom, and appear to be passing the turn. All right. There's the Sacred Foundry we needed earlier to be able to cast these Brash Taunters, but unfortunately, we've got to run out removal now. It's going to be Storm's Wrath. To sweep away this Stormwing entity, can't allow it to stay. We could have Abraded last turn, it's true, but it has prowess. And the likelihood of them having 1 mana spells is exceedingly high, just exceptionally high. So, definitely a thing I felt like we needed to do. This is going to be a 5/5 next turn, unfortunately. Let's just go ahead and get down a Brash Taunter, I guess, or try to. We haven't really resolved anything, or attempted to resolve anything while they had mana untapped. Wouldn't be surprised if there are some number of counterspells in the deck. Aethergust, put on top? No. We will decline. We will decline. Opponent chooses to adapt the Pteramander, and it's now a 5/5. We are in a great deal of trouble, ladies and gentlemen. A great deal of trouble. Okay, so suddenly we need a... Star of Extinction off the top here real quick. Oh, boy. This is unlikely to resolve, but we've got to try. Wow, okay, it does. Holy cow. Okay, so that went far better than expected. We did not expect those removal spells to work. We were expecting counter magic, to be sure. As it turns out, opponent was holding on to an opt. They go bottom with the opt. Draw a brand new card. Let the red mana go away. They now are looking at 2 mountains, 3 islands. A Steam Vents enters tapped for our opponent. Salty Bjorn, considering the 3 cards in their hand very carefully. What say you, Salty Bjorn? Not sure. Staying in the first main quite a little while. It could be they actually have an Arclight Phoenix in hand now, and they're just thinking, you know, do we just cast it? It's not unreasonable to just sometimes cast the card. It is a 3/2 flying haste, right? And you do... It's not quite what your deck normally wants to be doing, but since we're on 15, it's a very real clock, right? Speaking of which, Salty Bjorn's clock ticking down just a little bit here as they consider their options. Looking at Mountain, hovering it, and apparently elects not to tap just yet. It is true that our opponent probably considers this a, you know, okay. Finale of Promise happens. Opponent opts and charts a course first. Draw to discard a card. It's just a Steam Vent, so they don't have the Arclight Phoenix yet. Our opponent been a little unlucky here. Goes scry, or top of the scry. All right, fair enough. Let's Brash Taunter. We're actually going to pay the 2 life to leave up Abrade here. I think that's at least relatively important. Salty Bjorn, considering their options. It's Enigma Drake for our opponent. And carefully considering, hovering the Enigma Drake, hovering the Brash Taunter, shocks our face. We drop to 11. Enigma Drake goes to 8 power. Going to crash through? No, Stormwing Entity. All right, coming on down. It is a 3/3. Opponent gets to scry 2. Folks, we really want Star of Extinction off the top. They are tapped out. Please, Star of Extinction. You can do it. Our turn. You are not Star of Extinction. Decidedly not. All right, but we will Brash Taunter. Fight for 8. Opponent drops to 12. We're going to play our mountain and pass the turn. We now have 8 lands in play, just 2 white sources, but that's fine. We don't have that much white in the deck. This Irencrag feat in hand doing a whole lot of nothing, but boy, is it beautiful. Look at that art, ladies and gentlemen. Those swords are just glorious. Stormwing Entity swings in for 3. Goblin Electromancer as a 2/2, being a little menacing there. Darn it, ladies and gentlemen. The second Irencrag feat, even more useless than the first. Yep. Want to go into attack with Stormwing Entity. All right, we're going to take it. Sure. Down to 5. Opponent's on 12. All right, we're going to fight Stormwing Entity. Opponent takes 3 more. Sure. Folks, come on. Oh, boy. Not feeling good about that. That is highly unfortunate. No attacks. Nope. We're on 5. Ladies and gentlemen, there's just a million cards in our opponent's library that can kill us from here. Opponent being on 9, we just don't have that many options. Sure, let's pass. Opponent gets in with just the Stormwing Entity. Alright. Pass to damage. We dropped to 2. Opponent tries to pass. Alright, we'll fight the Stormwing Entity. Opponent drops to 6. We can do this, please! Oh boy. Is that... If this resolves, I think we've got him. Please? Boy! Heavens to Murgatroyd, folks. That was a wild, wild finish. Good game, opponent. All right, folks. Here we are, looking back at the deck. We ended up changing out our one of Volcanic Fallout and one of our Truefire Captains just to get 2 more Spikefield Hazards in. We were on 24 regular lands and 2 Spikefield Hazards, so essentially a 26 land deck, which I think is entirely reasonable. That did not prove to be the case for the Shuffler. So we went, like I say, we went down those 2 cards just to get 2 more Spikefield Hazards in. And honestly, we were still battling the mana base a little bit. It's possible maybe we want to go down a Plains and go up a Temple of Triumph, just to get an extra scry, possibly. Potentially, we want to even cut somewhere else just to get more land. Maybe it's the Shuffler thinking we're on 24, so all we want is some number and trying to get us to that number or whatever, and it's just not working. I don't know. It's also possible, for the record, we did face some number of like mono blue decks, tempo decks, and things like that, that we would prefer the Volcanic Fallout over the Sweltering Suns. We didn't end up cycling it very often, but the 3 damage is nice. So I don't know. It is relevant that the 3 damage does kill Truefire Captain, but now that Truefire Captain is down to a 2 of, that's a lot less important. So I don't know. Now that Truefire Captain is down to a 2 of, is it possible it's just better off as another Brash Taunter and another Stormwild Capridor, so we have no double white cards in the list at all? To me, I think that very well may be the case, honestly. It also makes it so, you know, the mana or the average mana in the deck is still equivalent. We go down 2 4s, but add a 3 and a 5. So they average out to 2 4s anyway. But our curve actually improves. Instead of having a million 4s, we actually have now extra 3s, which we were a little lower on, and another 5. So I think that is also a change I would make now that we had to pull cards for Spikefield Hazards anyway. Also, for the record, still had a tough time with this deck. We still had a tough time with the mono brown deck. 4 Abrades do not appear to be enough. So if you're running into lots of mono brown, you know, may look for even more artifact destruction. I was hoping the Brash Taunters would be enough, and maybe once we go up to the 4th, maybe they will be also relevant. Because sometimes you can fight their Constructs and stuff like that, or they bring down an Ulamog and you just fight it, right? Oh, then you attack me for 10? Whatever. I'm gonna fight it again next turn, right? Or whatever. But that only works if they don't exile it, which they always do. So you've got to have the ability to like play it the next turn, and there's like, because then they can't attack because you would block with Brash Taunter, things like that. So there is some play there that could be made. It just didn't end up being that relevant in the games we played. So notable, to be sure. That said, I stream on Twitch, and normally when these videos go up, I stream the same night. I intend to be streaming tonight as well. Now, my granddad just died, so it's a little... I'm having consistency problems right now because of that. I was not able to stream last night, and I'm still a little up in the air about tonight. It depends on how we're feeling tonight. But normally I'm very, very, very consistent. We've been streaming on Twitch for 15, 16 months now, and we've only missed just a couple of days ever. Well, I stream 6 days a week, so I missed every Saturday. But other than that, so I really appreciate you guys bearing with me. It's kind of a tough time for my family right now. That said, if you do have comments about the deck and things, let me know. Just let me know how you might change it and what changes you might make, so that if we do end up playing on a stream, we can play a deck that maybe wins a little more often, you know? But all right, it was a pleasure, and I will see you all later.